Okay, beautiful. Welcome, welcome. We are joined today by one of the founders of Joymind, Dr. Michael Glock, which I am so excited to have this conversation with today. Dr. Glock is truly one of the pillars of Joymind in so many ways. We've talked a little bit about Rochelle and her background with trauma and childhood experiences, relationships, but there's this whole other realm: personal development, healing, consciousness, and expansion that is Dr. Glock. And that's what makes Joymind so holistic and really so well-rounded, is that we're covering both sides of healing, from the heavy initial healing to the knowing that there's so much more to come than just feeling better, to being able to raise the bar. And that's really where Dr. Glock shines. And I'm so excited to have him on this conversation and to just allow others who are listening in to let your mind expand today. Let yourself maybe see or receive something unexpected in that conversation. That's kind of what I feel like the intention for today's call is going to be. So I'll get Dr. Glock to get us started. And yeah, let's just dive right into what we have in today's.
Thank you so much. Yes, indeed. Let me just say a couple of things based on the introduction here, is that we are going to experience beginner's mind. I'm going to weave in this whole idea from Zen Buddhism that the beginner has an open mind. You let go of your judgments. You let go of anything that you've previously known or understood. Because the truth is, if you're an expert and you have an expert's mind, it's full of all of these things that take over whatever it is that's in front of you. Many of the words that I use when I do the hypnotherapy is I use words like, I invite you to imagine, picture, or pretend. So it's like you are going on a journey and it is a story. I call them medicine stories, and today we're going to talk a little bit about my book, The Way Ahead Medicine Stories. And it ties into this idea that my work is sort of for the second half of life. And when I talk about the second half of life, I don't mean sort of categorically that midlife crises that virtually everybody goes through. You can have a midlife crisis when you're 20. You can have a crisis when you're 25, when you're 19, when you're 30. It's a point where you put a marker in the ground and say, you know what? Let's take a review of my life and what's happened. Let's do an inventory. It's like I might be drinking too much. I might have focused too much on my career. I've let my family go. My wife wants a divorce. My significant other's like just not present with me anymore. I'm losing it. It's like, what do I really want? Who am I? And it's the point in your life where you begin to understand that everything up to this moment has been constructed, and you fundamentally have not been the author of your own construction. You have listened to your mom and dad. Your mom and dad wanted you to be an architect, a doctor, a surgeon, and you're doing that, but you're unhappy. It's like it's just not working. I had a client recently who's a lawyer, but he only became a lawyer because he was so angry that his father wanted him to be something else, so he decided that he'd be a lawyer just to annoy his father. And now, 50 years later, it's like his whole life was spent as a lawyer when truthfully he was an author and a musician and wanted to just play the guitar and be in a band and live a free life. So when you come to meet, often you've sort of done some preliminary work. You have worked through the confounding, vexing issues that are just troubling you, and hypnotherapy is great at resolving that. But then you come and you sit with me, and it's a sacred space, and we have this very deep dialogue. I want to give you a sense of how that goes, and by giving you a little demonstration a little bit later, let me go through the material here that I want to go through, because I want to show you, I want to construct how the sessions work step by step, one after the other. Is there anything that you wanted to contribute, Alai?
I think this is a good start. Let's just dive in and then I'll kind of pick your brain a little bit as we go about once we get into that structure.
Okay, very good. All right. So there's something that I do that kind of throws everybody off at the moment. And part of going into a trance, part of being in a session, you know, in hypnotherapy, we use many different techniques to induce you into a deep state of trance. One of them is to confound you, is to do all sorts of different things. And one of the things that I do is I tell you that I'm a PhD and that I've spoken in universities all over the world. I build authority. I let you know that I've lived, that I'm an elder. I'm going to be 69 and you know, here I am. This is my 28th startup and the whole life. You know, you can do anything that you want. If you dream it, you can accomplish it. It's a matter of creating these images in your mind and infusing them with power. And then, of course, doing the things that you need to do, which is resolve the unconscious blocks, to remove the lingering mindsets that keep you small, that keep you locked into an old way of being open, using beginner's mind to a new way. Okay. So one of the things that I do is that I often pull a poem. I've got hundreds of poetry books here that I've collected over my life, and every client is special and unique, and I think about that poem. Maybe I've thought about the previous session, and I thought about what we're doing here today in this podcast, and I thought, okay, how can I anchor what we're doing? So I want to read you this poem from D.H. Lawrence. All right, now, as you listen to this poem, just remember everything that I've just shared. And D.H. Lawrence is saying exactly the same thing, but poetically, as what I've just shared. I am not a mechanism, an assembly of various sections, and it is not because the mechanism is working wrongly that I am ill. I am ill because of wounds to the soul, to the deep emotional self. And the wounds to the soul take a long, long time. Only time can help. And patience, and a certain difficult repentance. Isn't that what I've just been sharing? Is that you are constructed. You took on what your mom and father wanted. You took on what your community, what your peers, what your college. You took on what all of your friends in high school and college wanted, and you were part of a milieu. In fact, don't you remember when you were younger, you did everything you possibly could to look just like them so that you could become part of the clique, that you could become part of the in crowd. And now, halfway through your life, you realize that there's a deep unhappiness. There's no joy left. You can't even remember when you last spontaneously smiled. It's like you've lost. You don't even know who you are. That's the work that we do here.
Yeah, I wanted to just like highlight what you said there, Dr. Glock, about how being in the in crowd, like parents, friends, cousins, you know, people that you think should automatically accept you, there is a desire to be in and cool within their realm of whatever that means. And then that continues. We replicate that desire to be in school, in our friendships as we're developing our adulthood. And I think that was really interesting how you put that desire can start from a parental relationship as well.
Yes, indeed. There is a wonderful author, Clarissa Pinkola Estes, and this is particularly for women. She wrote a book, Women Who Run with Wolves. It was very famous about 20, 30 years ago. She wrote a story about the red shoes, and it's a medicine story. Ultimately, you have to find your own shoes. You cannot walk life in the shoes of someone else or walk in the shoes of the in crowd. This is where unhappiness resides. You need to find your own authentic truth. Who are you? What do you believe? What are your values? What are your morals? What is your compass? What is it that turns you on in the world? What is your true gift? How can you enhance? How can you amplify? How can you take that gift that you know is yours that nobody else has? And how can you bring that into existence? That is the work that we do here in the second half of life. Okay, so the title of this podcast is Hypnotherapy and Future Thinking, Enhancing Self-Control and Vision through Medicine Stories. And it's actually based on one of my Medium articles, and there's an image that I created which is a human mind, and there's just a head and a human mind in it, and there's speech bubbles around it. There's like the city, there's a workshop, there's a car, there's home, there's a person standing on the beach looking at the moon rising on the horizon. There's somebody studying and learning. And the image represents sort of all of the possibilities and the thoughts that you are. And a way for you to understand the work that we're doing here is we begin to unpack. I really like Martin Heidegger's term, unconceal. Unconceal what is lying fallow within the unconscious. And deep down there, you know, when we go back to your childhood, when you were happy and you had dreams, remember when you were young. So do this, you know, remember when you were young, you had these thoughts about yourself and about what you were going to accomplish. You were going to cure cancer. You were going to be the first Adam and Eve on Mars and start the human race over and again. You know, that was one of mine. And whatever it is, you had these dreams and the world was your oyster. But then, you know, 10 years on, 20 years on, 30 years on, life has happened, you know, you ended up with a family at a young age. It's been, you know, turmoil, trying to balance the books, doing all sorts of things, getting fired from your job. Your career got waylaid, shifted because that career path stopped being in existence because of robotics, whatever. You're now, it's like exhausted. And part of the work that we do here is to reconnect you to those original dreams. That's the source, right? And in the hypnotherapy that we do, and particularly the work that I do, is I take you through a portal into this place, this re-remembering of who you truly were. And I often encourage you to start a journal, a notebook, or a diary and record what is happening so that from week to week between the sessions, you are noticing the insights and the breakthroughs that are happening. You're slowing down. Philosophically, we've started with a foundation of beginner's mind. That makes me want to talk about beginner's mind and just say something else about that. But you know what? Before I do that, let me just go to the futures thinking. Okay, yes.
So I'll
I hear a
just
question.
kind of just recap where we're at right now. This desire that maybe you have it, maybe people already have this yearning of like resetting and going back to their true origin self, not the one that's been created through life experiences and influence and maybe where they thought they wanted to go at one point. Sometimes we collect a series of desires that is expired, we've outgrown, and we're acting from an
Very
older
good.
place. So I'm curious, do you find that people recognize like, okay, I want to go back to this blank slate, or is it kind of scary? You know, you're walking into a session and the thought of letting go of everything that you know and being blank per se. I imagine that's kind of a scary realm to tap into if somebody's unfamiliar with what it feels like to be with their truest self.
That is such a great response and an insight that people could be scared to do that, frightened to do that. The truth is, how we get there is we look at the decisions that they made along the way and what caused them to arrive at the place that they're at. Going back to the example that I gave earlier, the 70-year-old sort of went back at the decision, at the moment that he decided that he wanted to be a lawyer, and what was the context surrounding him at that point of making that. And that's when we discovered the animosity that he had with his father. And the truth was, He was one of many brothers and sisters, and he was the only one that could take over the family business, and the father really wanted to take over him to take over the family business. But that anger that he had really created this alternative reality, and he's been living that alternative reality. And that's the way that this works, is that one by one, we look at the mindsets that got created at an earlier time, and we bring them up to the surface and we see them kind of for the first time, and then we evaluate them. Is that a good mindset to have? But no, I made that mindset because I did it out of frustration, out of anger. No, well, that's okay. Well, let me forgive myself for that. Let's kind of like put that at bay. Okay, well, here's another. So it's not like starting over. What in fact we're doing is revealing who we are, because from the choices that we made back then, assessing them, whether they are good, valid, or appropriate, putting the ones to bed that are no longer necessary or the ones that are not serving us, and then we use creativity and imagination to invent new mindsets. And then inside the hypnotherapy, we visualize those new conditions. And this is the futures thinking that we do, or particularly I do in my work, is that I take you into the future. We go 5 years into the future, we go 1 year into the future, 10 years into the future, and we imagine or picture or pretend, where are you living? What job do you have? How many AI agents do you have working for you, making money on the side? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you working in a corporate environment? What is the skill? You learned a new skill. What is that? And all of that inquiry and reflection and backwards and forwards and hypnotherapy and deep trance work is informed by the deep conversation that we have prior to the hypnotherapy session in every session. And those are those bubbles that I had you imagine, that picture. So that's how we use future thinking. And what happens when you begin to do that, there's a term for it. It's called, what's it called? It's called episodic future thinking. And when you can do this, when you begin to become adept at this, and look, here's another piece. It's like my work, it's about mastery. It's not just about fixing what's broken, even identifying what's broken. It's not that. What it is working with who you are and where you're at, and having you figure out that you're just not nearly performing at the level that you know that you can. And letting go of the mindsets, I often use the metaphor, and that's another thing with my work, is that the medicine stories that I've been talking about, they happen as metaphors. They happen as visual constructions. And I use a metaphor often of finding your way to a river. And then you look at this river and floating down the river after a big storm inland, all of these things. And they happen to be all of the bad choices that you made. Your alcoholism, your drug addiction, your addiction to all these things, your inability to focus, your anxiety, etc. And you see them all floating as flotsam and jetsam in the river, floating away. And as you see them, they're getting smaller and smaller and smaller till you can't see them at all. And they've reached the mouth of the river where the river meets the sea at the delta, and they've disappeared. And so now you're prepared to see these new things and bring this new world into view. And the more that we can bring this new world into view, we rehearse it. Like, I have some clients that are socially anxious and desperately want to be in a significant, profound, powerful relationship where they can truly meet their soulmate and experience that extraordinary dance of life that happens when you connect sensually and creatively and build things together and build a family and build a home and build a career and we visualize all of this and we practice it, we rehearse it in the mind's eye. And that's the magic that happens in the hypnotherapy. Deep state of trance, I am also prizing you. I am also acknowledging you. And I am being the positive father and mother that you never had. I'm not them. I am here to say that you are extraordinary, that you have the gifts and the capability in order to accomplish this. And let's look at the step-by-step approach. Okay, so you want to be a rocket scientist, but you haven't taken any science classes. Okay, step one, science classes. So that's a little bit about that. Right.
Yeah, I love that. It's really fun to hear you talk about it because I know that a lot of the work is visualizing. What do you see that's still coming? And both visualizing from like a very practical sense and then also the symbolic visualization where the tension and the chaos is actually shrinking. And although it sounds so trivial, like, oh, you just minimize in your mind uh the stress and trauma and the I can't, but it actually is that simple. It's just hard to do. And that's where your work really comes into play is taking what seems so basic, but actually making it effective.
Yes, thank you. Look, let me tell you why. Yes, you're right. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds crazy, simple, stupid, but it's not. And here's why. When you experience the trance state of hypnotherapy, like there's no other protocol out there. There's no other methodology. You have CBT, you have psychoanalysis, you have analytical psychology, you have talk therapy, you have all of them. None of them are using hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy produces a trance state. And, when you work with me, the first session's always 80 minutes. I spend the first 60 minutes just talking to you about hypnotherapy and the trance state and how you get there. And by the end of that 60 minutes, it's like you're asking me if you can now close your eyelids and go into the trance state versus when you first arrived, that's a lot of money. I mean, I just don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work on me. I'm too rational. I'm too logical. It's like, all of that has completely been erased, and you are so clear that you're going to experience a trance state. And when you allow yourself to go into that beginner's mind and to experience that trance state fully, magic happens in that space. Yes, I do all of these things, and all of our hypnotherapists do all of these things within the trance state, but there's another layer, and you just touched on it, which is that it's archetypal. It comes from a field that is out there. People, people call it religious, people call it spiritual. It's something deep from the wellspring of everything that's ever existed. There's a field, and it's archetypal, and it shows up in symbols. And to really explain that, one of the things that I ask my clients to do is track their dreams. My work, record the sessions. I ask you to listen to the sessions every night for the next 6 nights in a row after the first session, and to listen to it as you go to bed and then fall asleep. Because in my trance hypnotherapy induction, I'm saying you are falling into a deep state of relaxation. You are falling asleep. I want you to fall asleep. So when you listen to my work at night, at home, when you go to bed, you fall asleep and you slip into dream time and you dream And I want you to record the dreams or record the symbols that appear in your dreams in the morning in your journal, notebook, or diary when you wake up. And a week later at the next session, my clients are just so excited because they read me the dreams that they've had and they say, oh, I can't believe it's just so I didn't even want to share this because it made me look so bad. But then when we tend the dream, when we unpack the symbols that are within the dream, they are messages. It's an entire story telling you that it is what is coming or what you could do to help yourself unfolding. It is so extraordinarily wonderful and creative, and it's a whole nother layer of experience. Hold on a second. Okay, all right. So where were we?
Okay, so there's just different levels of awareness when you are operating in your life, when you are in your own head, when you're in your dream state, when you are in a session. I think kind of what I'm hearing you share, and I think the best way for someone to understand is that we're using all those different versions of self, the social self, the private self, the deep desired self, the unconscious self. And with hypnotherapy, we're able to actually integrate all those pieces together in a way that creates the change that we genuinely want, not just copy pasting what we've done on repeat.
Very good. Let me give you a little example. This is sort of not the deep hypnotherapy. I'm just going to 5-10 minutes, but just be here with me. That's all you got to do is listen to my voice. I invite you just to sit comfortably in the position that you're in. Just let go of the room or the space that you're in. Become connected. Gently close your eyelids. There's nothing for you to do. There's no exam. There's no place that I want you to be. There's just nothing that you need to do. Just listen to my voice and you can think, yes, that's a Kiwi accent from New Zealand. Yes, very good. And I invite you to just think about yourself at this very moment, knowing that you're probably aware of just how far you've already come and how resilient you are and how creative and deeply intuitive you are. And perhaps even now you can feel something stirring deeply within you. There's a quiet knowing that you're more than just your past. You know that your future is calling. And this is what we're going to explore today in this moment. Is the possibility of what could be happening. Let's begin by inviting your body to relax. Allow your breathing to slow down. And with each exhale, softening the space around you, your hands may be resting gently. And that's all you need to do, is just rest. It's a signal to go deeper. Let go, surrender, experience an open beginner's mind. Come connected to yourself. I'm going to count down from 10 down to 1. And on 1, you're going to be in a deep state of relaxation. Let's begin the descent by taking the first step down. And now 9. You're 10 times more relaxed than you were a moment ago at 10. Noticing your breath has changed. Sounds around you become more distant. And now 8, you're 10 times more relaxed than you were at 9. A wave of ease flowing down through your body. Feel that. Imagine, picture, or pretend. And now 7, you are 10 times more relaxed than you were at 8. Letting go. It's becoming effortless. And now 6, just allow your shoulders to drop, your jaw to soften. And now 5, you're almost halfway down into a deep state of relaxation and 10 times more relaxed than you were at 6, letting your mind drift this way and that. Anything you do is perfectly okay. Good. Very good. And now 4, you're 10 times more relaxed than you were at 5, an inner awareness expanding. And now 3, a beautiful quiet space opening from within. And now 2, you're 10 times more relaxed than you were at 3, the outer world fading. And now here, 1, calm, gentle, peaceful tranquility. I invite you now to imagine, picture or pretend a quiet rise in the land. ridge just ahead of you in a landscape of the mind. You walk toward it, leaving behind the repetitive loops of yesterday, and at the top a great river comes into view. Unlike any that you've seen before, its waters don't just carry reflections of the sky, they carry glimpses of the person that you're becoming. This river mirrors future possibilities, a healthier body, a calmer decision maker, a goal reached. Your mind in this moment is rehearsing the future. And research shows that imagining future outcomes can reshape your habits, strengthen self-control, amplify motivations, and increase clarity. Allow you to focus on what is wanted and needed in the present moment. And I invite you now to find yourself on a path next to this river, and you see a canoe carved from a sacred tree, a medicine tree. You step in, the current takes you, and inside the canoe you see that there's two gifts: a journal, your bridge between the dreaming world and your daily life, and a feather that's fallen from a hawk or an eagle, symbolizing a tool for broader perspectives, for greater vision, a feather to support you in drawing and writing down the life that you're designing. You've become a designer. You're imagining your future. Career, relationships, bank accounts, timing the market, connections. Let the feather write small but be meaningful. By when goals? By June 1st. I will have taken one courageous step. By July, I'll wake up with a clearer purpose. By such and such a date, I'm becoming more of who I'm meant to be. These are not tasks. They are invitations to embody your own future that you are now in control of. You are becoming the captain of your own ship. Up until now, you perceived yourself as being just a crew member of the ship. Somebody else is on the bridge. Somebody else has been designing where you're supposed to be going. The task now is for you to recognize that your journey, your healing journey, is to become the captain of your own ship as you find yourself in the canoe on the river. And just ahead on the river, you see a version of yourself, confident, clear, creative, vibing, finding yourself at the right place at the right time, experiencing synchronistic events. You think of people and the following day they call. You find that later this week something shifts, a new insight, a small decision that feels aligned. These are signs that you're already stepping into your vision. You are learning to fly the middle path, not too high, not too low, balanced between vision and presence as you fall into a deep, deep sleep. And now you notice that the canoe has drifted to a gentle stop. You step out, and as you look behind you, you don't just see where you've been, you see where you're going. And now you have spent the whole night dreaming, and you become aware that the sun is rising in the east, bringing a new day of life, of adventure. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5, and you're going to return to this podcast. There's going to be a smile on your face, reconnected, excited, open to a new adventure. Now, take a deep breath into your body, become aware of the room that you're in. And 2, reawakening the body, feeling the weight of your body return, becoming aware of the day and the hour. And now 3, take another deep breath into your body, a sense of strength returning to your body, to your spine. You sit up straighter, you straighten your neck. And now 4, take another deep breath into your body, remembering the future vision, the story that you've just been engaged in. In a moment, on 5, you're going to open your eyelids, smiling, present, and grounded. And 5, gently open your eyelids and return to this podcast. Welcome back. Wonderful. That's how it works. But obviously, we do it over the course of 80 minutes on our first sessions, and all of the other sessions are 50 minutes long. That felt really good.
Beautiful. I think we should honestly just end it right there. Like, I don't think my voice should come back after that. So I think I even like the part of you saying that felt really good. And then let's end the episode there. Thank you so much. Great work.
Thank you.
Love it.
Bye-bye.
Good to see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.